Hello, everyone. I'm Kerry George for CIBN TV on YouTube, and also you can find our website at thecibn.com. And I'm here today going to be talking about some strategy and how to fix some problems, how I fixed some problems for some folks this week. I'm going to answer 3 questions today that came across my desk this week. And maybe some of these answers might help you as well. So I'm going to read the questions. This is what 3 people asked me this week. One was about doing daily lives or weekly lives, wanting to know, where do you get all the content to actually put on a weekly live, a weekly podcast, a weekly video, whatever it is, to be consistent in doing weekly? How would you come up with a year's worth of content in advance? So I'm going to share the strategy for that today. I had another question that came across my desk. It was asking, how do I gain credibility quickly? This person was asking me because they were from another country. They're working out of India and they wanted to get clients in North America. So they asked me, how do I get credibility quickly in the North American market? And how do I maintain those relationships? That was even a little bit deeper into the conversation. So we're going to talk about that, what my answers were for that. And then the third thing that was asked of me this week that I'm going to cover today is the person was saying that they run a service type of business where they do all of the work personally, and they're currently making about $1,000 a month, and they wanted to raise what they're making to about $10,000 a month. So I'm going to talk about what the strategies were that I gave each of these 3 people today. And you can see they're very varied type of things that that they're asking about. But I thought, as I answered those people, I thought, you know what? I bet you there's a lot of other folks out there who could use these types of answers and strategies as well. So I'm going to share this today. So the first question was weekly lives, going live every week on Facebook, or putting out a YouTube video, or doing a podcast every week. I always say that there's these 4 C's for online marketing. There is, you got to create content, you've got to be consistent, you need to have connections, and you need to have a call to action. And if any of those things are missing, then the reality is your social media online marketing is going to suck. Okay, so it's not going to work out. All right. You can spend as much money on content as you want, but if you don't have those other things like the consistency happening, or the large connections list in place, or you're not making any calls to action, it's a complete waste of time. If you're missing 1 out of 4, it's a waste of time. And many people only have 1 out of 4, never mind 3 out of 4. So, and then they can't figure out why their social media marketing isn't working. So anyways, I digress. That's just something that should be stated right up front when you're trying to create an online social media strategy. You need to have those things in place. Now, what about the content? Where do you get this weekly content to do this every week, week after week after week? Well, we have a few different strategies that we implement to create weekly content. And one of them that we do quite regularly, I teach it in the 7-day challenge, the social media challenge, which, by the way, you can sign up for and find on our YouTube channel at CIBN TV. Just Google or look for CIBN TV on YouTube, and you can do the 7-day challenge and learn this technique as well as many others. But I'm going to give you this brief one that is pretty awesome, works very easily. You simply write down 13 problems that you solve. So whatever you do, your business exists, I assume, to solve a problem in the marketplace, right? You're solving somebody's problem. So what problems exactly do you solve? Get out a pen and paper and write down 13 problems that you solve, okay? And when you write down the 13 problems, it's a really good idea to write this on lined paper and leave 4 or 5 lines in between each one of the problems that you solve, 1 through 13, because you're going to come back underneath each one of these problems and you're going to write down methods that you use to solve the problem. Okay. So if you have first problem, and then you say, well, I solved that problem in 4 different ways. So you want to write down 4 different ways that you solve the problem. Now, some of you might say, well, I don't have 4 ways that I solve that problem. I only have 1 way. I have my course that I do, or I have this one service that I offer. That's the only way. Okay, so write down that 1 way. And then you're going to use the other 3 spaces to tell 3 testimonies or 3 stories that would be appealing to that problem, that would be helping with that problem. Okay. So when you do that, when you have 4 solutions for 13 problems, you do the math on that, it's going to cover 54 weeks. So you're going to have something to talk about every week for an entire year as you're growing an audience. And you could be doing that as Facebook Lives into your group on Facebook. You could be doing that on YouTube, talking about the problems that you solve and how you solve them. And it would always give you fresh content to work with. And okay, so I'm just going to give you a couple different examples for this. Let's say I'm a plumber, and one of the problems I solve is I solve the problem of maintenance in your home. And underneath that, I could probably, list a variety of maintenance type things that I do as a plumber, like when the pipes start leaking, right? That's number one. And so that would be the thing that you'd put would be I do maintenance. People have the problem of upkeeping the maintenance on their house, which is the largest investment of most people's lives. And now the first thing that I do to solve that problem is I fix their leaky pipes, their leaky faucets, because that drip in the night is more than irritating. It means that something's not working right, and it could be putting a lot of money down the drain in the form of water disappearing out of the house, right? So this is one thing. Maybe I help people go turn off all of their pipes and stuff like this. There's an outdoor switch in Canada that we shut off the water in the winter because it will freeze the pipes. Okay, that's another method of maintaining people's plumbing that we would promote. It would go number 2 under that category, right? There might be something else under maintenance. You might have, we do the lawn sprinklers and stuff like that, and we help people with that. So you could do a whole session on talking about what has to happen with lawn sprinklers once a year. Even in warmer climates, I would assume those things need to be cleaned, right? So, and maintenance could also be, cleaning things like gutters or, washing things out that, would normally get dirty or have filtration that's falling down into that. So, there's different things that you could talk about underneath that subject. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's talk about you're a business coach. Okay, what's the problem you solve? Well, the problem would be business owners don't have enough revenue. How do I solve that problem? 4 ways I solve that problem. Well, I don't know what you offer for 4 ways. I know 4 that I could talk about. I'm not a business coach. I actually run a business network. But being involved in a business network, I see a lot of those solutions come before me. So it's not hard to think of 4 ways to solve the revenue problem for business owners. Number 1, go networking, because you can bring in about $150,000 a year from networking. So that would be solution number 1, go networking. Another way to solve the revenue problem would be, let's look at your pricing. Could we increase pricing so that you are, maintaining your standard of living as inflation is going up? Is increasing pricing one of the possibilities? Could look at that. Another way of increasing revenue might be repackage the way that we sell things so that we're not selling things one time. Maybe we could be looking at, could we create a membership subscription-based business instead of just having one at a time transactions, right? That would solve a revenue problem because then people would pay you every month. So instead of getting a one-time sale of maybe $300, you might have a lower sale of $100, but they're paying you every month after month after month after month. And in a year, it's $1,200 that's brought in instead of a one-time sale of $300. See how that could fix the revenue problem? And a lot of people could do that. They haven't really thought about or wrapped their head around how they could create that with their business or industry. So you see, each one of those could be a topic of discussion in a broadcast. And there would be enough information about each one of those that you could do a whole session on just that. Another one for increasing revenue in a business might be to take stock of all of the income and all of the expenses and see where holes could be plugged. That could be another session on just that. And again, that's a great talk. And it shows your expertise. And these are just a few ideas that I'm throwing out, but you can see there's the problem of not having enough revenue, right? And 4 different things that you may be professional at that you could talk to in a way that would help people get the answers that they need, so that they and then it helps you build an audience. I mean, people come back week after week and month after month to hear what you got to say, because you had some really good answers and solutions for the problems that they have. And this is true for any business, right? You say, well, I'm a florist and I don't solve people's problems. Don't you? Florists solve relationship problems, don't they? Hello? If you forget your wife's birthday or your anniversary or Valentine's Day, that's a problem. Okay. And those are 3 solutions right there. Just talking about how to be, how to keep the person, your significant other, in the front and foremost part of your life, and be acknowledging them, appreciating them at special times of the year by using flowers. You see, it works for everybody, really. I don't think there's a business on earth that exists that doesn't solve somebody's problem, or even if it has to make them want something, or they wouldn't be buying it, right? So that's what we get down to. What are the problems you solve? 13 ways you solve them, and 4 solutions under each of the 13. That's an easy 52 weeks of the year that is now covered just by doing the math on that. So that's one of the ways I use to come up with ongoing content. And another one that I do is just throwing it out there. I mean, what am I doing right now? I'm talking about what are the questions that people bring me all the time, right? So how about you? What are the questions that people bring you all the time? I never run out of content when I start talking about that, because people are always bringing me problems that they're having in their business. And all I need to do is just run down the list of the things they asked me recently, and I got lots of stuff that I could talk about. No problem. And I'm sure that you do too. What are the questions you're continually answering in your business that you could then turn into weekly content? Maybe you just need to keep a running list as people ask you questions, and say, oh, yeah, that's a question people ask me all the time. Each one of those questions could be a whole program. It could be a YouTube video. It could be a live on Facebook. It could be a podcast. You could bring in a guest as well to discuss the topic with you, to go through it thoroughly. And as you bring on guests, they tend to bring their audiences and make your podcast or your live or your video, be more widely watched, because you brought on guests as you had the discussion. All right, here's another question I got asked this week. Completely different question. So I had a person who had reached out to me from India, and they do some online things for people. And I don't really know them at all, but they asked me, how would I gain credibility in the North American market? They were saying they really wanted to show off their skills to North American business owners. And they really wanted to, show they didn't want to do the emailing everybody's inbox kind of thing that others were doing, because they saw that as being spammy and not that effective. So they wanted ideas about how could they introduce themselves in the North American market without, resorting to those tactics that they'd seen others use, and what could they do to bring credibility. So my first answer for this, again, is networking. There's no question. Networking is a great place for someone, who has a skill. They're in one country. They need to gain credibility in another country. So come to the online networking meetings at CIBN Connect. Come to the online meetings of other groups, but be consistent there. Don't do pop-ins or splash buys, because, nobody gets to know, like, and trust you with that. You probably should buy a membership and attend regularly, so that people can actually see you and they can get to know, like, and trust you. And I know membership costs are, they're not free. What you could go to the free ones, but when you go to free ones, you attract people who don't want to spend money, because they're there because they like it, because it's free. And so if you've been going out to free networking and can't figure out why you're not getting clients, it's a huge, huge, huge waste of time. You will land one once in a while, just because of the luck of the draw. If you're consistent, you're going to get something, but you're going to get a lot more if you go to a networking organization that's a paid group, because the people who have paid, they got skin in the game. They're actually interested in spending money They've shown that already by their contribution to be in the same group as you. And so it's much more effective. But for you to build credibility, this is a great place because, I mean, you can come in once a week, get to know these people. And what's going to happen is one of those people is very likely to buy your service. They're going to go, oh, you do that for that price? That's a great price, you know? And often you would have an advantage coming from India or Pakistan or the Philippines. You would have an advantage because your services may be lower cost than what people might be charging on this side of the big water. But they are a little bit leery about spending the money because they're not sure if you're legit. They don't know if you're for real. But if you come into a networking setting where you talk for 60 seconds every week, or there's breakout rooms where you can introduce yourself more fully, what's going to happen is somebody in the group is going to try you out. And if you do a good job for them, then they're going to give you a testimony. And that is really key because it's not just a testimony. You can take the testimony and put it on your website. You can take the testimony and use it in your email marketing. All that's important. But what's even more important is that they would say the testimony verbally in front of the rest of the group. Because again, when you take their testimony and you put it on your website, again, people in North America will say, well, I don't really know that guy. He says he's from Cincinnati, where I'm from, but I don't know him, you know. So they're still not sure if that testimony is true or if you just got it from the internet somewhere. And by the way, here's a hack for you that will help you a lot. If you are using people's testimonies and they've legitimately given you the testimony, ask them if it's okay when you post the testimony, if you can link to them on LinkedIn to their profile page. Did you just hear what I just said? You understand why that's important? You see, I can actually tell that that's Joe and that he lives in Cincinnati. And I could even reach out to them and have a discussion and see if Joe is real and what his experience was firsthand if you've done that. Isn't that cool? And most people won't. They actually won't, but they like the assurance that you really did do business with Joe. So linking to them on your website, to their LinkedIn profile is a great way of getting a testimony from somebody and using it. So if you go to CIBN Connect, the CIBN.com website, you'll see we have testimonies on there. And most of them, when you go over top of the name, you'll see the color change and you click it and it takes you to their LinkedIn profile page, which shows you this is a real person who really is doing business with CIBN Connect. And if you so choose, you can send them a message and say, hey, what's your experience been? Doesn't that give you peace of mind that the network would be a good network? Because these are real people. You can actually reach out to them. So use that strategy as well in your business. That's a great strategy. But the networking strategy is even better. It's even tighter because when you are networking with people in this same group and you're coming there week after week after week, and you've now done business with Bob and you did business with Carol and you did business with Susan, and they're all talking about how awesome it was doing business with you, and new guests are coming into the networking group each week, and the guests are wondering, well, are you legitimate because you're out here somewhere where I can't see you and I'm not sure. But Bob and Carol and Susan all did business with you, and they're all talking about what a great job you did. It's a no-brainer. The guest is like, wow, that's a good price. I can see that you're doing good work in the community. And they're like, yeah, I'll try you out too. So you see, you can get a lot of ongoing business by belonging to a good business network where people get to know, like, and trust you. So these are just a couple of things that you could do to gain credibility in a market outside the market in which you live. And that would work for us in North America trying to gain credibility in Europe. Same kind of deal. Okay. Use the same strategies. Just start working with people from the community that you want to be working in. So let me see. What was my third question here? I've covered what to do, how to have a strategy to have continual posting every week after week after week for your lives, your podcasts, your videos. And then we talked about how to get credibility fast in your business, particularly if you're outside of the market and you're trying to get into that market. By the way, it works in your own market as well. Same strategies would apply, no problem. Okay, so here's another question. And then I got asked this week, and as you can see, I get asked a lot of questions. I mean, I just did a business summit last week, and there was a lot of people in attendance over 4 days. And after that, I've had people asking me questions. So, I mean, they're just stacking up. But I actually deal with thousands of business owners every year. So I get all kinds of questions about what do I do to build my business all the time. And this was one that came in this week. This person came in and they said that they have a service related business where they go individually and do their service with and other individuals. And they were making, I think it's about $50 an hour. He's making $1,000 a month. And he wants to get to the place where he can make $10,000 a month. So I had a little strategy session with him and talked about ways that that could be achieved. And the first thing I had to establish with him was that the method that you're currently using isn't working. So let's be clear on that. If you're charging only $50 an hour and you make $1,000 a month, I mean, the work that you're doing and how you market yourself, you could uptake that to 2 or 3,000 using that method. But to get to the place where you could make $10,000, you need a completely different strategy. And the problem is this: there's only 24 hours in a day. And if you're making $50 an hour, there's only so many hours in a day or in a week that you can work. And so therefore you're limited by the dollar per hour and the amount of time that there is. So you can't take that $1,000 a month and turn it into 10 that way. Okay. You could turn it into 3,000. You could increase your prices and take fewer clients. And that would also, that might get you 3.5 or 4, maybe. Okay. Possibly. How, if people would pay, if the fact is that you're really good at what you do and you're a higher caliber service than others that might be out there in the price point. Okay. So that's possible. But getting to 10, how do you get to 10? So we talked about a few different methods of this. The first one would be, well, what if you didn't do the service? What if you actually went out and found the clients and you got other people who do the service, and then you had a bunch of them working for you, and you collected the clients, and then you have a takeoff of each one. So you could multiply yourself and be in different locations at the same time, doing the service, but you're not the actual one fulfilling the contracts and doing the service. Okay, that's one way. And you could get to $10,000 a month doing that. You are going to have some overhead. You're going to be sharing a good deal of the money that comes in with those people. But if you're good at marketing and you're good at getting that message in front of the group of people that would purchase the service, that is a legitimate option. And many people do that. If you suck at marketing and have no skills at all at that, and are barely filling your own roster up with the clients that you have because you really don't know how to get and land more of those sales, then that's probably not the most viable option unless you are going to spend a good deal of time learning new skills, right? That's possible. Or if you had the budget to hire people to market it properly so that it could be done and you're not doing the marketing, that's another method that could work. So there's that. As I continue to talk with this person, I also asked other questions. I like to ask a lot of questions when I'm working with people, just to make sure that we're covering all of the bases. Because if your primary goal is to go from $1,000 a month to $10,000 a month, another question that I would ask is, do you love what you do? Do you really, really love it? Is this the method? Is this the only method that you could use to get to the 10,000? Because maybe you should be looking at a career change. Maybe you should be looking at something that would more easily reach $10,000 a month, because there are things that would more easily reach $10,000 a month, particularly from this individual service. That's possible. So, I mean, I think that's a legitimate question that you need to ask. If it is the money that you're trying to increase, is that the best vehicle to get there? And maybe we should have a look at some other vehicles, because there certainly are other vehicles that might be better suited to hit that quicker. and things that maybe you don't have to have a lot of training in. And, it might take you a few months to figure it out, but it shouldn't take forever, especially to start hitting more than $1,000 a month. It should be something that could be done in 60 days or less. Okay. So that's another question I asked this individual just to get to the bottom of that. This person also had the idea of using JV partnerships, which was not a bad idea. That's actually a pretty good idea. As long as you have something to offer the joint venture partners that you want to bring in with you. Okay, so joint venture partnership is a great way of increasing income, but you have to be kind of schmexy to the JV partner, you know what I'm saying? Like something that they actually want to be involved with you and usually it's because you would have a list. So when I started talking to this person, I said, so do you have an email list? No. Okay. Do you have a social media following? Because that could help if you had a following of people that were, hanging on your every word on, LinkedIn or YouTube or, Facebook or something, maybe a big Facebook group, then that's a possibility. But this person was coming up with no's and zeros and all of those categories. Now that could be built. Those are all things that could be built. And at CIBN Connect, we have strategies to build those things. So, but it would take some time. We're looking at 6 months to a year of building to get to a place where a JV partner would go, yeah, I want to do some business with you because you got a great list. You got 10,000 people on it. You got 20,000 more following you on social media. Yeah. That can be done 6 months to a year, but it's some diligent work effort that has to go into it. And you have to follow some strategies to do it. I know we have our social media boot camp coming up, and we always have one that's recorded from the past. People can go in there and do that. And as I mentioned before, the 7-day challenge to create 700 pieces of social media content is up on YouTube on CIBN TV, and a lot of good strategies are laid out in that plan. So, someone could just go to CIBN TV and start watching that sequence, and it would start setting you in the right direction on that. But is that what this person wanted to do? And as I began asking these questions, they weren't really that interested in spending long hours on social media, figuring these things out and applying them. So maybe that isn't going to be the path to the $10,000 a month. You know what I'm saying? So what about training? What about creating a course? That's a possibility. And in this person's expertise, a course was not out of the realm of possibility. Could do it. When you create courses, you could, create a course that's worth $1,000. Now there's pieces that have to be in place, right? In order for you to sell 10 of them. So again, you have to have some social media savviness. You need to set your course up and be ready to deliver it. And you have to market it and get people to sign up for it. And there's methods of doing this. We've got some great people in the network, by the way, that can set up somebody to do that and get them moving and shaking fairly quickly with tools that will help them get the job done. We've got a guy in our network, Greg Dixon, who focuses on that. A great person who can help people with that kind of work. No problem. So, that's a possibility. But again, as I was talking to this particular individual, he didn't seem to be that crazy about setting up courses like that. So that wasn't going to fit into his category. So then I just started talking about other possibilities of ways that he could make money without, if we want to make money in a way that has integrity, it's not illegal. We want to make money in ways that we wouldn't have to take a lot of training. We want to be moving ahead, currently making $1,000, want to get to 2 and 3 fairly quickly and then build to 10,000. So, for someone like that, I would say probably you want to go with a network marketing company. What? Did I just say the network marketing word? Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. You need to get over that. This is legitimate. It's been going on for years. We see thousands of business owners a year. And you know what? I have all kinds of business owners that come along CIBN. It's $77 a month to be a member of CIBN. And it's business owners that we attract. And do you know how many storefront businesses have struggles paying $77 a month? and many network marketers can pay it. What does that tell you? They have more bottom line profitability than people who have storefronts. Sad but true. Okay, so we see it over and over again. And I also see that network marketing companies help people develop personally, not just in the career of growing their business. They help people with personal development because it's hard to be a real jerk and grow a large team. So people have to develop personally. They end up reading books and taking courses and becoming a better human being and having a stronger family relationship and a marriage that lasts because they get involved with companies like this. Now, all of these companies are not created equal. There's 2,000 a year that come into play. And I know this is where I think where a lot of people have these misconceptions that they'll join a new startup one that doesn't last. And then when it falls apart, they go, oh, that was a pyramid and that's why it didn't last. Pyramids are against the law. Okay, wake up and smell the coffee. If it was a pyramid, it would never got approved by your local government, your national government to be running a business in your country. Okay, it wouldn't be on the market. So that's not true. What really usually happens is that 80% of all businesses fail in their first 5 years. And that's true of network marketing companies as well as any other kind of company. Okay, it's just true. And a lot of times, people who are employees who've never been involved in business will join network marketing companies because they see it as a quick way to make a buck. And they don't realize that they're not all created the same and they don't have a lot of experience in these things. So they jump to conclusions, they get in and think it's going to be easy. You know, it's sales. Sales isn't easy, but it is rewarding and it does work. And if the company has longevity and makes it through, then, you know, you're probably in a good spot. But I would never join a new one. Never. Not in 100 million years, knowing what I know about businesses today, having dealt with thousands of businesses every year. I would never join a new one. I have done it in the past. And there was a big mistake just every time. It was a crash and burn because what happened was they always have their days in court with the government. The first one is where the government decides if it's a legitimate business. And if they're offering it to you, then they probably got through that hoop. But they might not have get through the next ones because the next ones are like there's 7 or 8 levels of government things they got to go through. I live in Canada. It's even worse. So if anything that's health or beauty related, it gets approved in the States with the FDA, but then it has to get approved by Health Canada. And there's different levels of approval. So these companies will get started. They'll move their stuff into Canada. They've been approved at the first level, so they are legal. You can operate. But at some point, some product line, some ingredient might get questioned, or there wasn't enough French on the labels. And the next thing you know, you're 4 or 5 years into this and built yourself a nice team, and the government decides that they don't qualify for something, and they stop the products at the border. I've seen this happen dozens of times over the years. So first thing I ask if I'm thinking about that kind of a business for myself or for someone else, the first question I would ask is, how long has it been in business? I'm looking for a company that's been in business for 30 years. Yep. Why? Because I know they have no more hoops to jump through with the Canadian government. So, I mean, that's just one of the things I look for. I want to make sure that they are really, really have longevity. And that if I start building something, the rug's not going to be pulled out from underneath me and thrown away. Okay. So, I mean, those are just a few things that I look for in that kind of a company. And when I'm talking to people and they're looking for stuff, I also know at CIBN Connect, of the thousands of businesses that we see every year in all kinds of markets, that there's about 6 or 7 companies that I see over and over again that always have profitable people. And again, how do I know they're profitable? Because they can afford to pay our fees, $77 a month USD. And they're not skipping payments, and their credit cards aren't bouncing in the back office. That's how I know that those companies are better than some of the other companies, because we've had some of the other ones come along and the credit cards are bouncing and people are flighty and they don't seem to have longevity. It's just like anything else. Consistency is really important. So when I'm seeing a lot of fluctuation on the consistency thing with XYZ company, I'm like, I don't think that that's really the best company to recommend to people as a viable option of taking their income from $1,000 to $10,000 a month, right? I would instead recommend one of the companies that I know. The guys have had no problem paying their fees. They're not only paying $77 a month, some of them upgrade to mastermind level, which is $297 a month. Some of them take our buyout plans that come up once a year, where it's $3,000 or $4,000 to pay your membership up front and never pay again. These guys have bought those, and they're all being bought from the same 6 or 7 companies. Some of the new ones, people come along and they say, "Oh, Kerry, I made $3,700 last month. It's my 3rd month at this network marketing company." I said, "Really? That's interesting. How much does it cost to get in?" "Oh, $1,500. That's called front-end loading. You know what that means? Have to buy a bunch of stuff up front. And because I had to buy a bunch of stuff up front, and the first 5 people I brought in had to buy a bunch of stuff up front, they better pay you $3,700. Holy smokes, because they soaked you. They got you in, you bought this big chunk of stuff. And now you're going to be putting it on your store shelf or your storage shelf. They just usually have stores, but in your basement or in your garage or in your spare room, you got this bunch of stuff. And it's not the kind of thing that you buy, use up, buy some more every month. A lot of times, the product lines and companies like that are high end. And what happens with high end products when there's an economic recession? We stop buying them because it's not something we need or that we must have. It's something that we liked and we wanted. But when decisions have to be made because inflation is rising and money is not coming in as readily, those are the first things we get rid of. So the longevity in that kind of a plan, it's not very good. I have actually looked at about 200, and I think it was 237 different marketing plans of companies like this over the last 10 years. And again, it really comes down to the same 6 or 7 companies that we've seen at CIBN that people do well. And they're not brand new. Oh, you can get in on the ground floor. It's going to be great. Run like your ass is on fire, okay? Do not join those things, okay? Because ground level means untried, hasn't had its day in court with government at various levels, okay? And it is a disaster waiting to happen. You also got to prove it to people. No, go with a company that's been around for years. Go with a company that has longevity, that has a reputation. Go with a company that makes, they do charitable things. Like those are good companies. And look at, can the little guy get in today and actually start creating income this month, at a reasonable rate? You're not looking to be a superstar month 1. You're looking to increase what you have coming in. Now, do know these things take work, okay? But you don't have to be a superstar salesman to make money, usually. You have to be diligent. You have to learn new things, but you can learn them as you go along. You have to put in time, and you have to put in your time doing the things that actually make money. That's important. You should know that. Because the reality is, a lot of people think, well, I put in a lot of time. I was reading books and I was going to meetings and I was talking to people. Okay, those 3 things do take up a lot of time, but they don't make a lot of money. Hello? It's great that you're doing personal development, but call that what it is, okay? It's personal development. It's not income earning. Income earning is when you are actually asking people to join the thing that you're doing, okay? Or you're doing a presentation, or you're doing a follow-up to get them started. Those are income earning activities in the recruitment realm. If you have a product or service you're selling, then the actual appointment to make the sale would also count as an income producing activity. Setting appointments would count as an income producing activity. Everything else, even though it might be necessary, is not an income producing activity. And if you spend a lot of time doing stuff that isn't income producing activities, you're not going to make any money. And that is true of every business, any business that you could be operating. If you're a plumber and you're not taking plumbing contracts to go out and do plumbing, you're sitting at home reading new books about or magazines about plumbing, you would know that isn't going to work, right? So I don't know why people get mixed up with that in a sales realm. It's the same thing. If you're in a sales related business, you need to be out making the sales. That's where the money comes from. If you suck at making sales, you know what? There's good news. The more that you try, the better you'll get. That's been my experience. Many years ago, years and years and years ago, right after I got off the ark, I joined a networking marketing company. I was like 20. It wasn't even 20. I think it was 19. And I was in that company for 12 years. And I got to tell you, the first few years of being involved in that company, I sucked. I was horrible. I was mean to people. Still can be. But I had no personal development that had happened at that point. I was 19. It was the 80s. I dressed like I was the love child of Prince and Madonna. People were attracted to me at first because I was very flamboyant and boisterous. And, I'm an extrovert. So people were attracted to the way that I talked, but I couldn't keep them because I was a jerk. I had to develop myself personally for people to be wanting to really do business with me long term. But that company was instrumental in helping me learn those things. And as I kept going through the sales process and doing it step by step over and over again, I became exceptionally good at selling. And today I'm very good as a salesperson. I typically will close 1 out of 3 sales as I talk to people about whatever it is I'm talking to them. 1 out of 3 will usually buy on the spot. And if I do a follow-up meeting with them, I usually get 2 out of 3. There's a clue for you. Do the follow-up appointment. Okay, so anyways, I just know that I learned a lot of that from that kind of a company and from being placed in a situation where I did repetitively the steps to get appointments, to do the appointments, and do the follow-ups. That's how you become a good salesperson. There's no trick to this, okay? And you don't have to be born a salesperson. I was not born a salesperson. I was born a jerk. In fact, I'm being very light with my language, okay? I was not one of the nice people. So, you know what? And I think a lot of people have personal growth that they have to go through. So it took a while for me to actually develop those skills and become better at those kinds of things. The network marketing company that I was in many years ago just gave me a place to practice those skills. And today I command a very high price. When I have personal consultation time with people, I charge between $1,000 and $2,000 an hour, depending on what it is that, what we're doing, right? So, and I help people grow membership subscription-based businesses, and I do strategy sessions with corporate and also with nonprofits, and I have a much higher ticket price that I can command today. Where did I begin the training on this? A network marketing company, guys. So before you go, wah, 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 these are no good, blah, 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 blah. That's the language of poor people, okay? Get away from that. There's great money to be made in those kinds of industries. And if you're at the bottom and you're making $1,000 a month and you're trying to figure out how do I increase this to 10, and you don't have a degree in something where you can go out and command that price immediately, that's a viable option. It doesn't matter that you suck at selling. Everyone does when they begin. Diligence, hard work, some discipline, that'll make a salesman out of you. It's not that hard, really. It's just doing the steps one at a time. And there's a lot of money that can be made in those kinds of industries. So pick a winning team, pick a winning program, ask questions too. When somebody tries to just sign you up for these things, if you really want to do it to make money, a good question to ask is, how long has this person been involved? How much are they making? And how close are they to somebody that's a higher pin level that could really give you some real help if you really wanted to tear it up? Those are some great questions to ask, because these things are also that lots of people get involved, but If it's my sister Sally who's just excited this week and she's always excited about something and flip-flopping back and forth here and there, and I really need to make some serious money, I want to get involved with someone that's really going to take me there, who's really going to be a winning horse that I can bet on and is going to work with me on an ongoing basis. So ask questions, gather information, and don't just jump from one thing into another, because focus is a key part of making any money anywhere from anything. Okay. And going from this to that to this to that, but it won't work. But you do have to pick a winning horse, guys. Like this person who was saying to me, I make $1,000 doing this service and I want to get to 10. As I examine the horse he's riding, the horse can't get him there. Doing that particular thing that he was doing, he cannot do it. It's not possible. I don't mean to burst anyone's bubble or make it sound like I'm a dream killer or anything like that, but just pure math, making $50 an hour in the service that he's doing and him trying to do it all himself, that is a dead horse. That you can't ride that to 10 grand a month. It has to get on a horse that can actually make the money. So, I think it's an important question to ask if you're trying to increase that much. I mean, that's a huge percentage of increase. That's not even 100%. It's 1,000%. I don't know what that is. It's a lot. So you got to pick a winning horse and go out and look at, examine, what are you spending your time on? And then focus in on that like your life depends upon it. And that is what can take you from $1,000 to $10,000 a month. All right. If you've got any questions, reach out to me. You can find me at CIBN TV on YouTube. And you can also find our organization, the CIBN.com. There's an events page there with lots of events you can come to. I know sometimes people try to join the network through the website. You actually have to come to some of the events, get introduced, and oftentimes you have to wait till a portal is open. But you can start coming and get introduced, and it is possible to, through introductions, to begin doing work with the network right away. You just have to get involved, okay? So come on out and see what we're doing, and we'd love to help you out. I'm Kerry George. Happy capitalism. We'll see you again soon. CIBN TV is where you find us on YouTube.